Lupin was arranging and tightening the meshes of his nets, while the police were keeping up a watch by day and night round Monsieur Gerbois. And people discussed the only three possible endings: arrest, triumph, or grotesque and pitiful failure. But, as it happened, public curiosity was destined to be only partially satisfied, and the exact truth is revealed for the first time in these pages. On Thursday, the 12th of March, Monsieur Gerbois received a notice from the Crédit Foncier in an ordinary envelope. At 1 o'clock on Friday, he took the train for Paris. 1,000 notes of 1,000 francs each were handed to him at 2. While he was counting them over, one by one, with trembling hands, for was this money not Suzanne's ransom, two men sat talking in a cab drawn up at a short distance from the main entrance. One of these men had grizzled hair and a powerful face, which contrasted oddly with his dress and bearing, which was that of a small clerk. It was Chief Inspector Ganimard, old Ganimard, Lupin's implacable enemy. And Ganimard said to Detective Sergeant Folenfant, "The old chap won't be long. We shall see him come out in 5 minutes. Is everything ready?" "Quite." "How many are we?" "8, including 2 on bicycles." "And myself, who count as 3. It's enough, but not too many. That Gerbois must not escape us at any price. If he does, we're diddled. He'll meet Lupin at the place they have agreed upon. He'll swap the young lady for the 500,000, and the trick's done." "But why on earth won't the old chap act with us? It would be so simple. By giving us a hand in the game, he could keep the whole million." "Yes, but he's afraid. If he tries to jockey the other, he won't get his daughter back." "What other?" "Him." Ganimard pronounced this word, him, in a grave and rather awestruck tone, as though he were speaking of a supernatural being who had already played him a nasty trick or two. "It's very strange," said Sergeant Folenfant judiciously, "that we should be reduced to protecting that gentleman against himself." "With Lupin, everything's upside down," sighed Ganimard. A minute elapsed. "Look out," he said. Monsieur Gerbois was leaving the bank. When he came to the end of the Rue des Capucines, he turned down the boulevard, keeping to the left-hand side. He walked away slowly along the shops and looked into the windows. "Our friend's too quiet," said Ganimard. "A fellow with 1,000,000 in his pocket does not keep so quiet as all that." "What can he do?" "Oh, nothing, of course. No matter, I must trust him. It's Lupin, Lupin." At that moment, Monsieur Gerbois went to a kiosk, bought some newspapers, took his change, unfolded one of the sheets and, with outstretched arms, began to read, while walking on with short steps. And suddenly, with a bound, he jumped into a motor cab which was waiting beside the curb. The power must have been on, for the car drove off rapidly, turned the corner of the Madeleine, and disappeared. "By Jupiter!" cried Ganimard. "Another of his inventions!" He darted forward, and other men, at the same time as himself, ran round Madeleine. But he burst out laughing. The motor car had broken down at the beginning of the Boulevard Malesherbes, and Monsieur Gerbois was getting out. "Quick, Folenfant! The driver! Perhaps it's the man called Ernest." Folenfant tackled the chauffeur. It was a man called Gaston, one of the motor-cab company's drivers. A gentleman had engaged him 10 minutes before, and had told him to wait by the newspaper kiosk, with steam up, until another gentleman came. "And what address did the second fare give?" asked Folenfant. "He gave me no address. Boulevard Malesherbes, Avenue de Messine. Give you an extra tip. That's all he said." During this time, however, Monsieur Gerbois, without losing a minute, had sprung into the first passing cab. "Drive to the Concorde tube station." The professor left the tube, at the Place du Palais Royal, hurried into another cab, and drove to the Place de la Bourse. Here he went by tube again, as far as the Avenue des Villiers, where he took a third cab. 25 Rue Clapeyron. Number 25 Rue Clapeyron is separated from the Boulevard des Batignolles by the house at the corner. The professor went up to the first floor and rang. A gentleman opened the door. Does Maître Detinan live here? I am Maître Detinan. Monsieur Gerbois, I presume? That's it. I was expecting you. Pray come in. When Monsieur Gerbois entered the lawyer's office, the clock was striking 3, and he at once said: "This is the time he appointed. Isn't he here?" "Not yet." Monsieur Gerbois sat down, wiped his forehead, looked at his watch as though he did not know the time, and continued anxiously: "Will he come?" The lawyer replied: "You are asking me something, sir, which I myself am most curious to know. I have never felt so impatient in my life. In any case, if he comes, he is taking a big risk, for the house has been closely watched for the past fortnight. They suspect me." "And me even more," said the professor. "I am not at all sure that the detectives set to watch me have been thrown off my track. But then—" "It would not be my fault," cried the professor, vehemently. "And he can have nothing to reproach me with. What did I promise to do? To obey his orders. Well, I have obeyed his orders blindly. I cashed the ticket at the time which he fixed, and came on to you in the manner which he ordered. I am responsible for my daughter's misfortune, and I have kept my engagement in all good faith. It is for him to keep his." And he added, in an anxious voice, "He will bring back my daughter, won't he?" "I hope so." "Still, you've seen him?" "I? No. He simply wrote asking me to receive you both, to send away my servants before 3 o'clock, and to let no one into my flat between the time of your arrival and his departure. If I did not consent to his proposal, he begged me to let him know by means of 2 lines in the Echo de France. But I am only too pleased to do Arsène Lupin a service, and I consent to everything." Monsieur Gerbois moaned: "Oh dear, how will it all end?" He took the banknotes from his pocket, spread them on the table and divided them into 2 bundles of 500 each. Then the 2 men sat silent. From time to time, Monsieur Gerbois pricked up his ears. Wasn't that a ring at the door-bell? His anguish increased with every minute that passed. And Maître Detinan also experienced an impression that was almost painful. For a moment, in fact, the advocate lost all his composure. He rose abruptly from his seat. "We shan't see him. How can we expect to? It would be madness on his part. He trusts us, no doubt. We are honest men, incapable of betraying him. But the danger lies elsewhere." And Monsieur Gerbois, shattered, with his hands on the notes, stammered: "If he would only come! Oh, if he would only come! I would give all this to have Suzanne back." The door opened. "Half will do, Monsieur Gerbois." Some one was standing on the threshold, a young man, fashionably dressed. And Monsieur Gerbois at once recognized the person who had accosted him outside the curiosity shop. He leapt toward him. "And Suzanne? Where is my daughter?" Arsène Lupin closed the door carefully, and quietly unbuttoning his glove, said to the lawyer: "My dear maître, I can never thank you sufficiently for your kindness in consenting to defend my rights. I shall not forget it." Maître Detinan could only murmur: "But you never rang. I did not hear the door." "Bells and doors are things that have to do their work without ever being heard. I am here all the same, and that is the great thing. My daughter, Suzanne! What have you done with her?" repeated the professor. "Heavens, sir!" said Lupin, "what a hurry you're in! Come, calm yourself. Your daughter will be in your arms in a moment." He walked up and down the room, and then, in the tone of a magnate distributing praises: "I congratulate you, Monsieur Gerbois, on the skilful way in which you acted just now. If the mater hadn't had that ridiculous accident, we should simply have met at the Étoile and saved Maître Detinan the annoyance of this visit. However, it was destined otherwise." He caught sight of the 2 bundles of banknotes and cried: "Ha, that's right! The million is there. Let us waste no time. Will you allow me?" "But," said Maître Detinan, placing himself in front of the table, "Mademoiselle Gerbois is not here yet." "Well?" "Well, isn't her presence indispensable?" I see. Arsène Lupin inspires only a partial confidence. He pockets his half-million without restoring the hostage. Ah, my dear maître, I am sadly misunderstood. because fate has obliged me to perform